Crisostomo Ibarra y Magsalin.
So is this Rizal inserting himself?
I don't know, because she scratched through that idea.
Is him.
Present.
Has been to study in Europe.
Este video llega a ustedes gracias a nuestros patrones.
Especialmente Belki, Emilio, Junior, Edgar, Fred Gabriel
Y niño.
Sol&LunaTV.
Hola Sol&Lunatics, bienvenidos a Sol&LunaTV. Yo soy Sol.
Y yo soy Luna.
And today we're gonna be reacting to a video that you guys requested. It is José Rizal, Noli Me Tangere, quick summary. As you guys know, GMA just released a series based on Maria Clara,
Which is
a character from the book, from José Rizal's book Noli Me Tangere. And you guys have been requesting this so many times, but we wanted to check on the book summary first. What happened? Before we react to the series, so here we are, checking on the book before we check on the series. And before we go over the book, huge shout out to our certified and verified minionatics, especially Cherry Floor, Janice, Soju, and Kenneth. Thank you very much, guys, for supporting our channel with your donations. If you guys want to donate as well, you can click on the join button next to the subscribe button and you will become members. Also, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe right now. When we reach 50,000 subscribers, we're going to bake pan de regla. Live session baking pan de regla with you guys. So don't miss out. Please like and share our videos so more people find out about Sol&LunaTV and they subscribe and we reach our milestone faster.
Road to 50K.
Road to 50K hashtag. Okay, so also don't forget to follow us on social media. We are everywhere as Sol&LunaTV. Now let's watch Noli Me Tangere, a quick summary.
Hi. I honestly did not expect for my video on el filibusterismo to garner as much attention as it did, and thank you very, very much for all the support.
So she released this after the... Why?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why it's episode 1 and then el filibusterismo will be episode 2.
That has been shown
I
on
gotta
that
put the
video. I
subtitles because
appreciate
it's too-
it so much.
Muy
The
bajito.
Ever
volume is
since
low.
posting that el filibusterismo, I have gotten so many comments asking me to do more, and while I am very sorry that it took me this long to get around to it, here is the more that people have been asking for. So since that video was about el filibusterismo, I think it's only appropriate that we turn our eyes to its infamous prequel, Noli Me Tangere. Before we
Tangere,
begin, I would
okay.
just like to say that because Noli Me Tangere is much, much longer than el filibusterismo, and I was on a bit of a time crunch when I made this video, that this will be what is hopefully the first part of a much longer series that will be summarizing this book.
But she
Okay.
hasn't made it part 2 or 3.
So,
or whatever.
Noli Me Tangere, which in English literally translates to Touch Me Not, was written and published in 1887.
Noli Me Tangere, como de
No me
tangente.
toques.
Tangente.
No me toques.
By none other than best boy chick boy José
José
Rizal.
Rizal.
It was written with the intention of being a very harsh critique towards the treatment of the Spanish Catholic Church to local Filipinos at the time. Now keep in mind that in my last video I did say that the novels were written with the intent to expose the corruptness of the Spaniards, when in reality José Rizal's novels aren't exactly anti-Spain. They're anti-church. He even wrote the original novels in Spanish,
really?
which not a lot of the local Filipinos knew at the time. There's also a common misconception that the novels were written with an underlying message of violent revolt is bad, kids, which isn't really true. Rizal wanted...
Okay, so this is not what I learned. I learned that the novels from José Rizal helped to
Start the
ignite a
revolution.
fire in the Filipinos and start a revolution against Spaniards. So this is a shocking revelation to me now, knowing that he was not really against Spain. He was just against the Catholic Church.
Okay. Nice.
But it's interesting. Let us know what you think about these guys. Do you think that he was against Spain and his novels really sent an underlying message for revolution, or he was just against the religion, not against Spain?
He wanted people to think first before actually fighting for independence. He thought that we had to be ready for it. He was against the idea of armed revolts at first, and we'll see that his views shift later on, only slightly, but that's why both novels still warn against violent revolutions, but El Filibusterismo is a little more cavalier with the idea. He wanted us to look a little forward past the initial revolt. What if, for example, we did earn our independence but were unready and would become overwhelmed with the responsibility of leading ourselves? There would be a lot of infighting. We wouldn't be too sure that our freedom was actually ours. There could be corruption. Does that sound familiar? Anyways, let us also keep in mind, my
No,
dear
it
friends,
doesn't.
that despite these works being seen as symbols of
I
our
don't know what
country,
you mean,
they
girl.
hold a lot of sentiments
What are
that
you trying
haven't
to imply?
exactly aged gracefully. For example, the idea that Maria Clara was the ideal Filipino woman comes from later pushes from people who misinterpreted the text, and only pushed
really?
for her to be the ideal when the Philippines started becoming more westernized and the women were doing things like growing opinions and wanting rights, when originally Rizal wrote for her to symbolize how the Spaniards had suppressed women into ignorance.
Oh.
There's also a lot of racism. Noli in particular has a lot of blatantly racist themes, especially towards Chinese people.
Oh.
I bring these up
Wow.
because a lot of people tend to brush over those facts when discussing Rizal's works, especially because of the pedestal we tend to put him on. We forget that he was still victim to the thinking of the time. He may have been more progressive, but progressive only relative to the time period that they lived in. Okay, now that I've gotten everything that I wanted to say
that
out,
is
let's actually get into the
Yeah,
story.
all of these were
We begin
disclaimed.
focusing on the luxurious and opulent house of one Don Santiago de los Santos, also known as Capitan Tiago, on Calle Anloague in Manila, where he is hosting a large dinner party to celebrate the return of a friend of his. Conversing in a corner are Padre Damaso, the Franciscan curate of the town of Santiago, Padre Sibilia, a Dominican friar, and an elderly
Dominican.
lieutenant of the Guardia Civil,
Yeah,
or
the
Civil
Orden of
Guard,
the
Lieutenant
Dominican.
Ibarra. He is sometimes also known as the Teniente in the Tagalog version.
Guardia Civil.
Padre Damaso is busy discussing the rights and natures of the native Filipino people, also referred to as Indios, when his tirade is cut short by the arrival of two more of our main cast, Dr.
What's up with the Spanish people calling everybody Indios? Like,
They call
stop
those
it.
Indios too.
Stop it. Get some help.
de Espadanya and his social climbing wife, Doña Victorina. The
Doña
pleasantries
Victoria.
are then cut short by the arrival of our main character. Capitan Tiago introduces them all to Juan Crisostomo Ibarra y
Ibarra.
Magsalin, the mestizo son of the late Don Rafael Ibarra, and
Oh, that's
own-
the guy in the trailer.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm lost. Let me go back to see what's going on. So the doctor comes with the doña,
Victorina. The pleasantries are then cut short by the arrival of our main
and then
character.
this guy comes with the Ibarra guy.
Capitan
he
Tiago
introduces him.
introduces them all to Juan Crisostomo Ibarra y Magsalin, the mestizo son of the late Don Rafael Ibarra and future almost wedding crasher. It turns out that Ibarra had been away
So is this Rizal inserting himself?
I don't know, because she scratched through that idea. So I guess she will explain. Some people might believe that this is
This person didn't
Rizal.
actually exist.
This is Rizal. No, but all of these are characters.
yeah, it's true.
Some people might believe that this is Rizal, like inserting himself into the story in the way of a character. And some people might believe that it's not. So I guess that's why it's sketched true.
For 7 years in Europe to study and had returned.
It's him. It's him. Has been to study in Europe. Yeah.
It could be a fictional character. It doesn't have to necessarily be.
He writes what he knows.
Okay.
For reasons not stated at first. But we'll get back to that. The food is served, and it's pretty uneventful from there on out, except for some brief conversation about what Ibarra had been doing in Europe, where he had gone, what he had seen, and also when Padre Damaso threw a tantrum for getting the neck and wings of the chicken in his tinola. He really loves tinola. It's like his entire thing.
Okay.
After dinner is done, Ibarra excuses himself early from the party, much to Capitan Tiago's dismay, and begins on his way home, only to be accosted by Lieutenant Guevara. The two converse for a while, and the lieutenant reveals to Ibarra how exactly his father died, because, oh yeah, plot twist, his father died, that's why he came back home, and apparently nobody thought to tell the kid how it happened. And as it turns out, Padre Damaso and Don Rafael had been friends, but due to some sort of falling out, Padre Damaso accused Don Rafael of not going to confession, and he was denounced from the church for his ideas of Christianity. Not long after this, Don Rafael was arrested for the accidental death of a tax collector that he had seen beating up young boys. The teniente said that he had tried to help by appealing the case, and he had succeeded, but Don Rafael sadly had passed away before he could be released. After this revelation, Ibarra is, well, and makes a hasty return to his hotel room and goes to sleep.
Teniente
plagued by
with a
visions of
Y.
his dying father. Fun fact, these nightmares are supposed to symbolize Ibarra's guilt for leaving his father in the Philippines while pursuing an education in Europe. Instead of delving deeper, at this moment of profound grief within our protagonist, our esteemed author takes this moment to segue and focus more on Capitan Tiago. So, Capitan Tiago, he is rich, unsurprisingly, and holds quite the sway over the local community and government, despite technically being a mestizo. But it's fine, he doesn't exactly consider himself one. He's described as being pretty at peace with God, and he devotes himself to several saints, almost to the point of polytheism. He is also described as being very good to his wife, Doña Patrocino, who is mentioned that one time and then never again. Quick side tangent, Doña Patrocino was a nightmare to look up. I had like 3 or 4 different sources at the same time, and they all gave me like differing versions of her character. Sometimes her name is spelled as Doña Patrocino, sometimes she's not his wife, sometimes she's his rival. It also turns out that Doña Patrocino is the Capitan's second wife. His first wife, Doña Pia, died while giving birth to Maria Clara, Capitan Tiago's only child and our main love interest. The lore here is that the Capitan and Doña Pia had a really hard time conceiving a child, so the Doña is given 2 pieces of advice. The first being from the women of San Diego to go to Taal and dance in the procession of the Virgin of Turumba, and from Padre Damaso to go to Obando and go dancing in the festival of San Pascual. Take note of the Padre's involvement here. It gets interesting. So the advice works. Which piece of advice, we are not told. They have a kid, the Doña passes, and we know the rest. Growing up, Maria Clara was surrounded by people who adored her. Her aunt, Tia Isabel, her father, Padre Damaso. But she'd always been a little more melancholic.
What is she implying here?
Did Damaso hurt her somehow?
It could be some SA or something. Oh my god, but this is almost done, this video?
Yes.
Where is part 2? Oh my god.
Colic side, most likely because of the absence of her mother. When Maria Clara turned 13, she was sent to a nunnery in Binondo, and not too long afterwards, her childhood friend Crisostomo Ibarra was sent away to Europe. And while they were away, Capitan Tiago and Don Rafael agreed on arranging a marriage between the two when they came of age.
Oh,
We suddenly come back to the present with Ibarra visiting Capitan Tiago's house over in San Diego, Laguna to speak with Maria Clara. The two converse on the house's azotea and talk about things only 2 souls in love could converse about. Patriotism and childhoods. Maria
Wait,
Clara.
wait, you're beautiful, but you know what else? It's beautiful democracy. Teehee, I just want to be romantic, please.
Patriotism. Maria Clara eventually has to leave with Tia Isabel to fetch her belongings from the convent. Meanwhile, Padre Sibilia talks with an elderly priest about Ibarra's plans and how beneficial a marriage to Maria Clara would be for him. In the next episode, we meet a bunch more characters because honestly, did you think that we ended there? Ibarra nearly murders a priest part 1, and we delve a bit into San Diego's history and politics.
Aww.
No episode 2
We need to know more.
Noli Me Tangere centers around the protagonist Juan Crisostomo Magsayin Ibarra. The story begins at a party to welcome Ibarra back to the Philippines after 7 years of studying in Europe. He is first surrounded by good friends, a beautiful fiancée, and a supportive upper class, but a priest with a vendetta against Ibarra's late father torments him. Ibarra learns the tragic circumstances of his father's death and the history behind the animosity held against him by the friar Damaso Vardalagas. Still, Ibarra chooses the higher road, avoiding revenge only to be harassed by Father Damaso at every turn. Another religious figure by the name of Father Salvi becomes Ibarra's enemy. Father Salvi attempts to kill him, lust after his former fiancée, and stages an uprising in which Ibarra is implicated. Ibarra is imprisoned, loses his friends and reputation, and is nearly killed, all through the relentless hatred of two religious figures. At the end of the novel, he is deflated, disillusioned, and weak. The bright future he envisioned for his town was shattered, and he finds himself surrounded by corruption and loss.
Oh wow, okay.
Okay, so the story ends in tragedy then.
Yes. Interesting. Thank
It
you.
doesn't have a happy ending.
You will never have.
So the padre
Damaso is trying to
Damaso
kill him.
tried to
Period.
kill him and imprison him, and in the end it was molesting Maria Clara.
Yes.
Where's the happy ending? Okay.
Voila.
Oh.
Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. And
Now watch this video.
Appears right here. It's recommended by YouTube's algorithm, especially for you. So click on it
Right now.